And a couple of days ago, I sent out a video to all of you extending a welcome to the Epiphany process and introducing myself to you, to those of you who didn't know me or don't know me. And I promised that I would return and explain a little bit about my story, about the process itself, and introduce you with time to some of the people that I've worked the process with. So today I'm going to be talking about where I've come from, where my beginnings came from, and what brought me to where I am today. Some of it has been very inspiring, and some of it has been quite difficult, in fact, very difficult. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. Initially, I used to be in the motivational industry, and I was very good. I'd be able to go forward and stand on a stage and rev people up, and they would go off and go, wow, that was amazing, we'll conquer the world, and I'm going to get things done, and it's all going to be fine, and Jenetta knows how to do it, and that was that, and very successful sessions. And then I noticed with time that people were coming back a few days later, some a week later, some even longer, some almost instantly. And they literally used these words, which were, we need another dose of Jenetta, or we need another fix of Jenetta. And I began to wonder with time how accurate those words were, because it basically meant that they needed my energy to fix them, or to get an artificial fix of energy and motivation. But the reason it didn't work was that they hadn't gained the tools themselves to motivate themselves and to inspire themselves. I could motivate them, but they couldn't do it by themselves. They needed me as an outside fix to get them right again. And then, of course, it lasted for only as long as my energy gave them motivation. And then they needed to come back and needed some more of me. And I realized that that would leave me being a bit like the Pied Piper, or a guru that just, you just can't get on your own. And it began to bother me quite a lot. I just felt there had to be some more authentic ways to be able to do this. And so for a little while, quite a long while actually, I pulled myself away from the motivational industry and sat down and started working on the intuitive side. Now, we all have intuition. It's not a closed club for the chosen few. We're all intuitive. You know, when you have a phone call from somebody and that somebody, you know it's them, or you think of them and then suddenly you see them. We all have that intuitive ability. It's just that some of us have the dial turned up more than others. So I decided that for people to inspire themselves, it would be important to learn how to know oneself and trust oneself inside. So I started the journey of expanding my personal intuition. And over the weeks and the months and quite a few years, I became pretty good at it, actually. And then people would come to me for advice on an intuitive level. Jenetta, what's, how, where, And after a while, and in fact I had a long waiting list there as well, and after a while I began to realize too that this was still not the answer, because people now were coming to me feeling that they couldn't trust their own gut feel, their own intuitive ability, and that they needed me to validate what it was they should or shouldn't do, or could or couldn't do. And it was really, really bothering me. And I knew that I was getting to a point of, again, searching for something more authentic. And it was at that point that my most life-defining happening happened. My greatest life test. I had survived cancer some years before very successfully and thought that was my greatest life test. But little did I know that my greatest one was still around the corner. And what happened was my 16-year-old daughter, Jennifer, had quite a difficult time. She'd never had an easy childhood. She wasn't my easiest of four. I'm the mother of four. And when she reached puberty, she reached out to me and said, I have a problem. I'm feeling very suicidal. And so we started actioning it and working through it. And it was a very torrid journey. I can't minimize it or make it out to be anything more than really, really difficult journey as we all tried to walk Jenny through her feelings of inadequacy and her feelings that she really did not want to be in this world and stay on the planet. And as she turned 16, I found that Jen was breaking more and more safekeeping house rules that would keep her safe and the rest of her family safe as well. She had a younger sister, or has a younger sister. And one day I was being very firm and applying tough love with her because the rules were just not there. And she and I escalated into an enormous row. And she left to leave home, to pack her bags and leave home. And I sensed that something wasn't right. And I went to look for her. And I found her. I found her in her bedroom, in her shower, hanging with a broken neck. So you can imagine that was... I can't even begin to describe to you the levels of where I went to in that space-time. It was devastating. At the same time, I went through a place of feeling relief that she could no longer hurt herself. This was her fourth attempt, by the way, and that she was no longer my responsibility with that worry of her leaving herself maimed and all those deep concerns one has as a parent. And at the same time of having that relief, I had this overwhelming desire to bring her back to life and trying to get as many people to help me to bring her back to life. So very conflicting happening and time. And you can imagine the impact of that over the weeks and months after we lost Jen and the knock-on effect it had on our family and certainly for me as the mother and the mother that had the argument and the mother that found her. She had been dead only a few minutes when I found her. So it was huge, and I really cannot say that it was something that I got through very, very easily, because I certainly didn't. It was a very tough journey, and any of you who've been through this journey will relate to me, because it feels like you're in an emotional black, dark hole, and it feels like a prison sentence. And it feels like you're not going to go anywhere. You're trapped there. It's like you've been sentenced for life. And getting up every morning was such an effort. And although I had my other 3 children, 2 had already left home, grown up and left home, I still had my youngest daughter at home. And everything was such an effort and so difficult to get through. And there were days I just wondered what the reason for getting through was. So I can't minimize that time at all. It was torrid. It was overwhelming. The pain in my heart, there were some days I could feel the shape of my heart. I could actually draw it in pain. I could draw it and say, this is where my heart is, and this is the shape it is. just where I could feel the pain. That's how deep it was. It was devastating. And it took me day after day and minute after minute of taking a breath and the next step. Fortunately, I had my meditation, which helped me tremendously, and I was still holding workshops, which I used as a forum to start working through this, workshops that I held for clients. But I knew there was still a missing. I knew that there was a big gap between having to mourn all this and get on with the rest of my life. And I had no idea how I was ever going to get past that. It just seemed too daunting, overwhelming, and lonely. You feel so alone. And that loss of a child. I mean, I've recently lost a mum, and I love her dearly and loved her dearly. But it just doesn't compare to the loss of a child. And exactly 9 months, prophetically, 9 months after Jenny died, I came across and learnt and trained in a process which is the bare parts, or the basic, not bare because it's very full, but the basic parts of the process I now use. And this process was taught to me by a very wise man. And I had to take it very slowly. I didn't overnight wake up and say, oh, I'm fine now. I mean, there's just no way you can get through what I went through and say you're fine overnight. And so I learned the process and I started using the process. And over these years, it's now 11 years, I'm into the 12th year since Jen died, I have been able to fine-hone and expand this process and do some amazing things with it, bring it to levels and heights that just blow me away as well. It's a very special, precious process. And I've been able to work this process with people all around the world. Some of you know I travel quite a lot, but the majority of my sessions are held online, and some of my clients, believe it or not, I've not even met, but they are my closest friends because we've worked so closely with whatever it is that they're dealing with. Now, the precious part of this is that I've been able to assist people with day-to-day challenges and gaining the coping skills to deal with them, and really valuable coping skills. They're not theoretical. They're very scientific, in fact, and that is why they work so well. They work so very well because there's no, well, let's try this, so that didn't work, let's try that. It's a certain method, and it works scientifically, and it's accurate. That's what blew me away when I first came across it with all that I was going through. And I've been able to work with people from day-to-day challenges right through to self-harming teenagers, suicidal teenagers, relationships, people with health problems, and right through to the greatest traumas like terrorist attack victims. And the list of people that have benefited from the Epiphany process and working this process with me just grows daily. I wake up every day inspired and amazed at what this process has done for so many and will do, because this is the legacy I will be leaving behind. And if I look at it, the process, by the way, I will be explaining the process more to you in the next video. Today's just the story, well, not just the story, but is the story behind what the process is about. But it's been phenomenal, and I can't even begin to tell you. I know I'm seeing now there are a lot of people who are watching now, and hello everybody, it's great to have you with me. But they're going to be coming on, and I'll be sharing their stories as well. Been phenomenal. Some of the terrorists attack people, others. It'll be an amazing thing to watch and hear. But as I say, this process, the Epiphany process, is a process that has grown and become more effective as I've placed more and more effective tools into it, expanded it, and it's been phenomenally successful. So I'm going to invite you today to join us. If you're not already on the Jenetta Barry and the Epiphany process page, I will put the link here. Please do go over there and like that page. Actually like that page. We had a very good turnout on my last video, and I would like to invite you to like that page, because as the next one comes up, the next video comes up, you'll be able to be part of that and listen to it live and hear what this process actually is and why it is so phenomenally successful and why it has worked for so many people around the world. So please do go and like on that page. Before I end off, I do want to say to you, this is the most profound thing about this. One of the things that the Epiphany process, and I'll share a bit about the process now, enables you to do is to find and embrace and acknowledge the hidden gift within adversity. And that's very difficult when you're running an emotional charge of just loss or judgment or pain or whatever it is on an emotional level. It's almost impossible to see where anything like this could benefit you. And yet it can. So I can say to you that the process has enabled me to understand that as much as I have the loss of Jenny for the rest of my life, it's there, it's not going away. At the same time, I can give you the equal amount of gain. And one of them is that I am living my life on purpose. I am living truly where my job is truly where I knew I always wanted to be. And that was because I lost Jen. And if anything, she and her energy and I have an amazing synergy now. And it's with that energy and that love and appreciation and thankfulness and so on that I've been able to go forward and share this process with so many. So I'd like to invite you to go and like that page, Jenetta Barry and the Epiphany process, and I look forward to having you live online again in the next few days as I explain more about this amazing process and what it's done for others. As I send you lots of love and see you soon. Bye.